In this lesson, we will block in the peak point of the horse's gallop, and we'll also start to rough in its descent. Okay, so one pose is complete. We can now start to move forward. So we can go in and start to adjust the front legs first. And by the way, if the mesh is getting in the way, feel free to go in and freeze the mesh layer. But this next pose is actually the high point in the gallop, so we'll need to go in, grab our center of gravity and leg controls. Let's go ahead and translate the horse upward. Not too high. We don't want this to look like a pop when the cycle is through. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and talk about the front legs. We can see that according to the reference, the front right leg is actually getting thrown back here. So let's go ahead and bring that back slightly. Let's also zero out our hoof roll, simply right-clicking on the hoof roll parameter. And then we can rotate the fetlock back for follow-through, and then start to bring the control forward to remove the IK locking we're getting. Remember, we also have the scapula controls that we'll need to use. So here, naturally, of course, we'll want to start to have these translate back. Also, keep in mind as I translate the legs, I'm using the axis band that's tied to the manipulator. All right, so I'm using the Z and Y axes, not moving in all directions. That will help us to clean things up a lot faster in our curve editor. Okay, great. So we have the right leg swinging back. The left leg, we can see, however, is moving in the opposite direction, is starting to move forward. So we can go ahead and translate that forward. Start to rotate the fetlock down slightly. It's really neat that we're taking this frame-by-frame approach. That means we really need to understand the animation we are currently working on and really understand the flow of things to make sure each frame blends seamlessly. Okay, beautiful. So we now need to do something with the pelvic legs. Let's go ahead and start with the pelvis. Let's go ahead and rotate that up a little bit more. Okay, great. We'll also want to have that translate down just slightly, not much. Great. So now going to the right pelvic leg, we can see here that it needs to move forward. So let's go ahead and bring that forward a little bit more. And then we could have the fetlock rotate forward in the x-axis. Very slightly. All right, now I've added this pose on frame 3. However, no worries. It's just a matter of removing the key on frame 2. I'll just right-click and choose Delete Selected Keys. Now we can go ahead and bring that key back to frame 2 where it should be. Beautiful. Now for the left leg, again, that's moving forward too. Let's go ahead and bring that forward slightly. And then we'll also rotate the fetlock forward slightly as well. Not much at all. Okay, great. Being that the left front leg has moved forward, we need to make sure that the scapula is starting to shift forward. So we're basically keying all of our controls every frame, and then we can go ahead and clean everything up afterwards. All right, beautiful. All right, so there is the horse's high point. Let's go ahead and make sure we're satisfied with this before we move forward. Okay, great. So now going to the next pose, frame 3, this is where the horse is starting to now fall. So let's go ahead and grab all of our controls and just kind of translate them down just very slightly. And now at this point, we can scrub from 1 to 3 and make sure we like the flow of things. For instance, when we go to frame 2, taking a look at this now, I think we can go ahead and bring the horse up in the Z-axis a little bit more. Okay, great. And now when we go to frame 3, you can see how he kind of drops fast. So I'll go ahead and just translate him up a little bit more here as well. Much better. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Going to our right leg, the front, let's go ahead and have that start to move forward slightly, but we'll want to bring this up so it creates a type of V shape in the leg's line of action. We'll also need to make sure we rotate the fetlock higher in order to get the V shape we need for the pose to look accurate. Beautiful. Okay, now for the front left leg, we'll need to go ahead and bring this forward, and this should also create more of a V shape, or more of a greater than symbol for another point of reference. And those are some things we need to look out for when we start to pose any character. If the line of action resembles something we're familiar with, let's go ahead and keep those shapes in mind and make sure that we add those to our animation so that in the end, the animation looks convincing. All right, beautiful. So we have the left leg moving forward now. That looks nice. Let's go ahead and take care of the pelvic legs. So here we're having the right leg fall a bit more. So we'll go ahead and start to have that translate down. Okay, let's see how this looks. I might roll the fetlock out just a little bit more. Just taking a look at the follow through. And then for the left leg, it almost overlaps the right leg if we take a look at the reference. And again, we'll want the fetlock to roll forward. Beautiful. Okay. So right now I'm taking a look at the pelvis. Here, again, we'll want that to rotate back. So I'll go ahead and just rotate in the x-axis. So that is starting to roll as the pelvic legs swing forward. All right, beautiful. So I'd say this would be a good stopping point. Let's go ahead and continue working on this rough pass in the following lesson.